Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are again tuning into the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. We are in the middle of the third hour. We are talking with Joshua Nybo. He is a veteran. He's a writer. He's been working on starting a web series to go along with his articles and commentary to return the grand old party to its roots. And we were just talking about Antifa, what it is that conservatives can do to fight Antifa without stooping down to their level. We were just talking about how Antifa is a terrorist group, not to the point of ISIS, but I mean, they all wear masks. They have a lot of similarities, to be honest. And we're talking about how to fight that. Let's get back into it, Joshua.
Yeah, thanks. As far as, like I said, the best way to fight them is right now with cameras, with self-sacrifice, and with leading by example of what kind of discourse we want in America. We want an America that engages in talking, that has free assembly, that can wave its flags and hold its signs and say what it pleases without coming to blows. If they want to try and spoil that, I don't think we should let them. I think that we should remember that we are the party that is trying to uphold the rule of law and everything from immigration to crime and punishment in other areas as well. And I think that part of that means that it's on us to remember that even if these people have forgotten that they're dealing with other citizens, not fascists, we need to remember that we are dealing with other citizens, and that as such, there is no moral call for vigilantism, and that so long as the police and the army remain capable of handling them, that should be a resort, not taking it into our own hands. And I understand that that's not the emotionally satisfying answer, and there's definitely been a lot of controversy, and a lot of people disagreeing with me, and a lot of people saying crush Antifa with Crusader memes. But the thing is that like crush them how? Are we going to start doing the same thing? I think that America is watching, and CNN and MSNBC might be trying to paint a different picture, but they don't actually speak for all of America. And again, they can't argue with things like just straight up video footage. That's the sort of thing that they really can't spin. And if they won't even run it, you better believe Fox and others will, and you better believe that that's the kind of thing that will get shared around on Facebook.
Right, absolutely. I mean, I think that's definitely one way to go about it. But, Donald Trump getting elected, it seemed like everything was going to, it was a big step in the right direction, electing Donald Trump, I believe. But I don't think that the battle is over. There is so much so much of an uphill battle that we are fighting right now, because the tendency is so strong to basically paint everyone as Nazis, as bigots, as racists. And if you can convince someone that because somebody thinks a certain way that they're actually engaging in violence because of what they think, then more and more and more Americans are going to be okay with that kind of violence. Punch a Nazi. When is it okay to punch a Nazi? How did that even become a question here in America? When is it okay to punch a Nazi? And I like you said, I get the emotional response. Wanting to fight for justice, fight for social justice, and wanting to get rid of bad ideas and stuff like that. But I think the best way to go about it, the best way to go about getting rid of bad ideas, is to let them. This is a conservative thing, is to let them speak their bad ideas so we can get a good strong whiff of how awful and terrible it is. But since the mainstream media is so in the can for these Antifa folks, even the mainstream media, I mean, this is irony for you, the mainstream media supporting a group that doesn't support free speech. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But a lot of folks think that if we don't actually fight back in some way, then it is going to have deleterious consequences in the future. And I totally agree with you in the way that we shouldn't be going around and like burning people. We shouldn't, the torches and pitchforks and all that stuff. We shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be doing what they are doing. But but something deep down inside makes me worries me that we should all be prepared for something bigger.
Well, I think that we should always be prepared for something bigger, especially because, like you say, that there's like a bigger fight even after the election of Trump. Well, I think that the fight will never actually end. that we're fighting a monster with many heads, and like the mythical Hydra, they'll just keep regrowing. Until the end of time, issues like Antifa in some form or other will always be with us. And I think that instead of worrying that, are we letting them overrun America, I think that we should, again, take a step back and breathe and remember, okay, well, they're not in a position to overrun anything right now. They're just really noisy in front of the cameras. They get a lot of attention. But they're not in a position yet to force change. And I think that, like what you were talking about, as far as the mainstream media has been silent, that's one of the issues that it doesn't get as much immediate attention, but people do notice that there is a difference, that we disown our extremists. They don't. That we refuse to engage in violence. And if you're taking my advice, even if they are, and it's, like I said, it's drawing a bigger and bigger line between us and them. And I think that it's also useful to remember that there are a lot of center-left Democrats who are liberal but not necessarily progressive, not necessarily hardcore Antifa, who aren't going around telling people to mind their pronouns. And there are, like I said, I mean, it might sound shocking, but there are Democrats who are less hardcore, who don't really support Antifa, who don't actually want to see violence. This is the I think probably the majority of America is people just to the left or just to the right of that middle line, the middle line as defined by American context. And I think that it's important for us to help reach out to them and remind them that, we still consider them Americans and that we want them to be on board, since they might disagree with us on some issues. But again, they're not like the hardcore social justice left. They're not, hammer and sickle waving, car burning street thugs. And to try to detach them from Antifa, to try to help as much as we can the center and the more moderate liberals to distance themselves the same way we did for the alt-right, to show them that you're being lumped in with this group and they're trying to speak for you. Is this what you stand for? And for the most part, most people don't really stand for street violence.
Of course.
When you put the question to them. So it's like, yeah, I think that it's also important for us to try and remember that as much as possible, we should be trying to put a wedge between Antifa and the rest of the left, since Antifa's methods are actually quite controversial. Like I know personally quite a few Democrats who are not a big fan of Antifa, and I think that we should try to capitalize that. And instead of painting all of them with the colors of the most extreme branch, the way that sometimes the liberal media does with us, and trying to imply basically that all of us are a bunch of Klansmen waving swastikas around.
Right.
I think that we should try to show them that we are more
reasonable,
nuanced, that we're more reasonable, that we're more willing to accept that there are gradiences, that there's different shades, and that not all of them are the same, and to try to reach out to the ones that maybe might be as disgusted with this as we are.
I think you're absolutely right. Joshua Nybo, thank you so much for joining the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. I'm the Disgruntled Millennial. Get me at Shack General. We'll be right back.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.